Welcome to 3 Tips for Exciting Portraits. I'm Lee Varis, your host for this exploration into the basics of portrait photography. I usually present more advanced tutorials, but this time I'm presenting something a lot more basic. The idea here is to find a way to think about making better portraits without resorting to complicated lighting, posing, or trick post-production techniques. All of the following images were created without special lighting, reflectors, or exotic Photoshop techniques. All you need is a camera and an eye for certain characteristics of good portrait photography. First, we're going to concentrate on light. No special equipment is needed. You just have to observe the light, direct your subject to be in the best possible light, and control the direction and quality through simple techniques. Here's a classic example of what not to do. It is ironic that this image is the result of the most common recommendations supplied with every roll of film in years past. Those of you over 40 may recall that we were advised to place the sun behind the camera over our right shoulder, along with various recommended exposure settings based on sunny or cloudy weather. When your subject faces into the sun, they will be very uncomfortable. The light is very harsh and they will be squinting and not have the best expressions. So do the opposite. Here they are facing away from the direct sun, and I am standing in the shadow of the Sorora cactus at the right of frame, so that there is no lens flare. The two women have no problem with harsh light, and they have relaxed expressions because the sun isn't in their eyes. The problem with this image is that they are displayed against a very bright white light sky. The bright highlights in their hair from the sunlight coming from the rear are merging with the white sky, causing the hair to look smaller. The hair of the woman on the left has a lopsided look, and the woman on the right has a flattened head because of this effect. It's much better to arrange to have them displayed against a darker background so the highlights can be seen and the edges of the hair show up nicely. Here we have observed the direction of light and positioned the subject so they're lit by a wide expanse of sky rather than the harsh direct sun. The pleasing soft light comes from the quality of softness delivered by the large open sky main light, and the warm rim light on their hair comes from the direct sunlight coming from the rear. So we want to pay attention to the direction of the light, the softness or hardness of the light, which is related to the size of the light source relative to the subject, and the intensity of light, which will have an effect on the contrast. Here's the lovely Erin Manning. She is standing in a doorway just inside the threshold with a dark room interior behind her. Because she is just inside the threshold, there's no light coming down from the top. All the available light is coming in from a wide expanse of sky coming from in front of her. Super soft, even light, very flattering. There's another example of this approach. This time the 3 generations of women are on a balcony with open skylight coming from camera right. They are under the floor above them, so no light can come from above. This is very important because there's no opportunity for shadows under the eyes, and there's a great catch light, the tiny spot of light in the eyes from the light coming into the balcony from camera right. Beautiful available light with no reflectors or other modifiers. Here's another example of great lighting direction. This was shot near sunset. The sun is direct but very low on the horizon, so it's coming in very straight, just off center, and illuminating her face very evenly. This is often referred to as magic hour lighting. The light is not so intense that it's difficult for the subject to face the sun. There's a lot of contrast to the light because the sun is a small point light source relative to the subject, but there's also a lot of open sky contributing to the light, so the harshness is mitigated with some extra fill. This image also demonstrates the background defocus concept and off-center placement of the subject that will be explored in a few minutes here. A really beautiful image with no extra light modifiers or fill flash, etc. Shot on a rooftop at sunset in Tucson, Arizona. Here's an image by the Mistress of Light, Bobby Lane. This beautiful shot of these beautiful kids is illuminated by window light. Much like the Dutch masters, Bobby has placed the kids next to a window. The one thing she's added is a white card reflector at camera right to fill in the shadow side of the face. Even though the light is fairly intense, as you can see by the highlight at the left, the quality of the light is fairly soft because of the relative size of the light source, which in this case is the whole window. And that is very large compared to the size of the kids. Bobby has also moved in very close to the subject, so there's nothing distracting from these beautiful faces. More on this idea later. Here's another example of the subject protected from overhead light. Similar to the shot of Aaron in the doorway, here, the woman and her grandson are under a tree. All the light is coming from open sky from the front. There are no shadows under the nose or chin. Everything is very evenly illuminated. Here's another skylit shot, but this time the subject is more out in the open, so light is coming down on them from above. While the source is an overcast sky and it's very large with very soft shadows, there are dark shadows under the eyes. Although this is still a nice shot with great expressions, if they were under a canopy of some kind, more light would come at them from the front and the eyes would not be as shadowed. Here's another shot under a somewhat smaller tree. You can see some dappled light falling on her sweater from camera left, but her face is protected from the direct sunlight, and most of the light is coming from sky visible to her from the front. Even though she has very deep-set eyes, she doesn't suffer from shadows under her eyes. There's a very small, soft drop shadow under her nose, just enough direction to lend some modeling or shape to the features. Most of the previous shots have also demonstrated a pleasing relationship of subject to background. The idea being to make the subject the star of the shot and not have the background be so prominent. Make sure it recedes so it's not distracting. Here you have a shot of this couple in front of their house, but everything is sharp and the background is competing for attention. I have to resort to some Photoshop tricks to throw the background out of focus. It is always better to achieve this in camera rather than faking it in software. Even so, you can see how much better the shot is with the softer background. We usually want to simplify the background in some way to bring the subject forward, either by angle or direct control over the background, or most often by minimizing the depth of focus of the lens. Here's a good example of this last approach. This image was captured with the largest possible aperture, or small f-stop number. And this causes the classic limited depth of field effect where the subject is in focus and the background out of focus. Even though there is hard light falling on him, he's turned so that he's not looking into the sun, and the shadow side of his face is actually facing the camera. This is sometimes referred to as short lighting, as a smaller proportion of the face is lit from the camera's perspective. This causes very strong modeling in his features, very appropriate for a strong character such as this. The subject here has strong, sharp contrast, and the background is much softer with lower contrast, so he really comes off the background in a 3D effect. Again, the sharply focused subject comes out of the autofocus background. Sometimes, even when you do everything right, circumstances conspire against you. Here we have a really great soft light on the subject's face and an interesting framing of the subject filling the frame, but oh my God, I just can't take my eyes off that bikini figure in the background, even if it's out of focus. Sometimes you just have to use Photoshop to fix things like this. A relatively easy fix to rescue this great portrait from an unfortunate background element. And here is another really great shot of this musician, but damn that stupid picture right behind his head. Bye-bye. Another simple Photoshop rescue, nothing to distract you. You stay fixed on that marvelous expression of joy. Here's another nice candid moment. The background is nicely out of focus, but the strong orange color in the painting behind him keeps drawing the eye away from his face. Photoshop rides the rescue again. A little more blur and a serious desaturation solves the problem, and the focus returns to the face. All of the previous examples have an off-center subject placement in common. Dead center is almost always dead wrong. Here is our musician friend again, but compositionally everything is wrong with this picture. He's right in the center with many distracting elements around him. Almost no good angles here, but a little thinking outside of the box with an extreme crop and placing the subject into the edge of the frame creates a very strong graphic composition. Even though the eye is drawn strongly to the purple shirt, the ribs of the bowl back of the lute pull very strongly back into the center, keeping you anchored to the focus of his attention. So remember, the subject does not have to be in the center of the frame. Here we have our musician friend again outside Central Park in New York. He is placed to the side with a non-competitive soft focus view of an open plaza behind him. If you're stuck for a way of thinking about subject placement, you can use the rule of thirds. Think of lines bisecting the frame in thirds. Often the ideal placement of the subject is along one of these lines, and for extra credit, if you can arrange for something interesting to be close to the intersection of these lines, all the better. Here, his face and his gloved hands fall very close to intersections. Here's a closer shot. He is placed along one of the vertical thirds, and his eyes line up with the upper horizontal third. They are also close to the intersection of these two lines. Another thing to consider is that if the subject is looking out of frame, you should leave room in front of them so that they are looking into the area of the frame. It's always a more comfortable placement this way. Here the off-center placement, short lighting, and a higher than eye level angle contribute to an interesting composition with a strong diagonal anchoring the subject in the frame. This brings us to the importance of camera position relative to the subject. We all tend to take pictures from eye level because that's the natural position from which we see the world, but it doesn't have to be. We can be looking down, as in this very beautiful shot by Anthony Next, and here the high angle puts the girls against the green grass. The colors of their cute jumpsuits are no accident, all much more saturated than the background. Faces all in the upper third of the frame. We can also be low looking up. This shot by Aaron Rappaport gives this junior soccer player a more heroic look, an off-center placement, and here the head, knee, and ball are touching the edge of the frame. This has a kind of anchoring effect in that sort of oddly prevents the eye from leaving the frame. Your eyes keep being drawn to his face, even though the soccer ball is a compelling presence. That head, right at the edge, is much stronger. Here's another unusual placement of the subject. This photo by Bobby Lane has the camera low, looking up at the Native American. We can just make out a teepee in the mostly white background. He's looking up and to the left, leaving room in the frame for him to look to. He's placed in the lower right quadrant. This angle solved the problem. A normal eye-level perspective would have showed a crowd of spectators gathered at a powwow with cars and other distracting elements in the distance. By simply dropping to one knee, Bobby has created a very strong, iconic image. There's another masterpiece from Bobby Lane. Again, low angle looking up, off-center subject. The strong cross-lighting complements this great face. The strong graphic of the blanket behind him is just slightly out of focus, keeping you fixed on his face, but creating some additional movement around him. Just a fabulous image. Now, sometimes you can place the subject right in the center, especially if you have a strong symmetrical framing element like this slide, and especially if you have the most beautiful grandson in the world. How can you go wrong? I hope you enjoyed this look at some very basic concepts for portrait photography. You can find much more advanced information on my website and my blog. I have a YouTube channel with lots of video tutorials, and you can follow me on Twitter to find out about my various classes and workshops. I have 2 books in print, available on Amazon and Kindle, as well as paper versions. Mastering Exposure in the Zone System for Digital Photographers, and my bestseller, Skin, the Complete Guide to Digitally Lighting, Photographing, and Retouching Faces and Bodies. I also have a comprehensive course on photo illustration, masking, and image compositing online at udemy.com. 9 hours of step-by-step video tutorials with all the work files for download. You can purchase at a special discount if you use the code YouTube50. Be sure and like my Varis Photo Media page on Facebook. Sign up for my email list and I'll send you a free PDF tutorial on the Zone system. Thanks for watching.